Hey everybody, welcome back. Let's take a quick journey here at the end of the Nintendo Switch while it's in its twilight years, months, days, we don't know how much time is left, to look at the 10 best series on the Nintendo Switch made explicitly by Nintendo. So this is all going to be Nintendo series, nothing by like Capcom or Square Enix. This was really hard to whittle down, but essentially I weighted it by 70% on new releases, 15% via kind of Switch Online and classic releases, and 15% just complete and arbitrary subjectivity because it is my channel. That's kind of how this is going to work. Let's jump into Nintendo's 10 best efforts in terms of franchises on the Nintendo Switch. Number 10 is Mario Kart, which basically just had Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. This wasn't even a new game, it was released on the Wii U and then brought to the Switch, and this is actually one of the only Wii U games I've ever played. Yes, I did know someone unfortunate enough to own a Wii U, and this was the game we played. It was a blast. So when I got this on the Switch, I was not excited. I didn't actually put that many hours into it. I think I put like 20 hours into the game, mostly multiplayer, over the course of like 7 years. Objectively speaking, it's one of the most popular Mario Karts. People love it. The tracks are zany. It's a beautiful looking game. It handles really well. You can play online relatively smoothly. I say relatively because Nintendo servers are never all that good. So this might be the best Mario Kart to many people out there. And honestly, Nintendo supported it really well. There's a couple bundles with tons of new tracks, and I think some new like carts and customization options and so on. Other than that, you have a couple really fun 90s Mario Kart games on Switch Online with the Super Nintendo original and Mario Kart 64. Honestly, for me, like Mario Kart 64 is more up my alley because I kind of like the tracks being a little bit less crazy than they are in Mario Kart 8. But yeah, this just barely ekes it into the 10th spot on Nintendo franchises. Number 9 is kind of surprising, but it's Pikmin, and I say that because Pikmin is generally not really a respected series in the mainstream, and a lot of people just don't seem to care about it much. It just isn't like Nintendo's like go-to series if they need to make a bundle of cash or like get some like sales for like a new console or something. But anyway, Pikmin 1 through 4 are all here. I've never played 1 and 2, but they came out in a remaster that's really bare bones, but I guess supposedly still pretty serviceable at least. 3 also has a remaster, because it was unfortunate enough to exist on the Wii U, and that's a really fun game. That actually might be my favorite. It's really fun to play multiplayer too. And then Pikmin 4, which many people say is the best, and I don't know, for me it's kind of a toss-up between 3 and 4, honestly. But yeah, really cool series. I mean, if you've never played it, Pikmin is a real-time strategy involving little creatures called Pikmin that you need to use to explore the planet and extract resources and defeat some foes. So there's like puzzle solving, some combat, some management stuff. It's just a really, really unique game that is honestly pretty hard to explain, but because it's Nintendo, it's pretty easy to pick up and learn. So I do hope to play 1 and 2 eventually, but this is a really cool series, and I'm glad to see it get this much love on the Switch, even if it is still flying way, way, way under the radar. Number 8 is Donkey Kong. This is really hard because honestly, for me, I'm like subjectively unfair. Like I love the Donkey Kong Country games on the Super Nintendo, and those are all here, by the way. Thank you, Microsoft and Nintendo, for putting that together. Yeah, I just love those games, and I would rank them higher than almost any game in existence. But in terms of like modern Donkey Kong Country, you don't have any new games. All we have is a Returns remake finally making its high-definition debut. It was originally on the Switch, then got ported to the 3DS. And Tropical Freeze, which, while it is probably the best 2D platformer on the Switch, is also originally a Wii U game. So I think we have incredible Donkey Kong Country games here, like the entire historic series, for the country games anyway, and Land I guess I'll include in that, and since the Game Boy games are there. It's all here on the Switch. DK64, I don't know if that'll make it over or not, but anyway, basically the entire historic franchise is here. It's just to me that, I don't know, there's not a new game, and we're really starting to feel that gap many, many years on. Like the release schedule I saw posted, it was like Donkey Kong Country Returns, Donkey Kong Country Returns, Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, Returns. So these games keep getting repackaged and recycled, and it's about damn time we get a new Donkey Kong game. But that said, all really quality releases. I love these games, and that's why it makes it to number 8 on my list. Number 7 is Fire Emblem, which had some weird Musha games, but we're going to focus on the 3 houses and Engage, the 2 mainline entries that play like a classic Fire Emblem game. I think both of these games are great. I think people will definitely gravitate more towards one than the other. And the more popular entry is definitely Three Houses. Fans go gaga over this because it has all the social links and you can recruit characters and you can have like tea time with them and do all these like little mini games. And so there's a lot of stuff going on in the story and the social elements kind of extracted from Persona that people really love and sunk a lot of time into in Three Houses. But that said, that's at the expense of the combat. For me, it was the easiest Fire Emblem I ever played. You could cheese most of the battles. They were boring, honestly. I just didn't really enjoy battling in this game all that much, and I wanted more of a challenge. So that was a letdown. So I don't know. Three Houses I enjoyed once. Don't think I would replay it, but still a really great game with like 4 totally different storylines to play through. Engage is actually the one I prefer, even though most people disagree with me on that, and I've actually gotten like downvoted to hell on Reddit for saying it. Engage has much better combat, the weapons triangle is back, the maps are way better optimized, you don't see as much redundancy in them. But that said, of course, that's the characters in the main plot do suffer. I actually like the characters, but they're charming on like a very kind of surface level. They're not really deep. You can't really explore their social links too much. And yeah, the social elements are kind of like weakly implemented here, but to me, I just like that it stuck to the roots of Fire Emblem, focusing on the intense combat, really fun strategy, and I'm playing this on hard, and it's hard. I mean, it's really fun. And then you've also got 2 Game Boy entries. You got the original Fire Emblem for Western audiences on the Game Boy Advance, and then you've got the Sacred Stones, both very fun Fire Emblem games that I haven't played since release, but they're the games that got me into the series. Honestly, it's kind of unfortunate, I guess, that we don't have like one Fire Emblem to rule them all, but Fire Emblem, a really solid showing, and like I said, Three Houses and Engage, in my opinion, are both worth playing at least once if you are a fan of Fire Emblem or strategy RPGs, or kind of Persona, I guess, at this point with Three Houses. Number 6 is an obligatory entry for me, which is Pokemon. I say that because as a kid, I loved Pokemon so much. I played the crap out of Red and Blue, played a bit of Yellow, then I played Gold and Silver, had the cards, watched the show, traded them on link cable. I mean, everything was Pokemon for like 2 years. And then suddenly, I don't know, I just fell out of it, and I've never really been able to get back into it, with the exception of returning to Soul Silver on the DS some years later. But we have a lot of Pokemon on Switch. We have Let's Go, which is a Yellow remake, Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet, which are 2 new generations, an Arceus game, which is actually the most popular. It's sort of inspired by Breath of the Wild, takes place in, I guess, like almost like ancient Pokemon times, and the way you capture Pokemon in battle is just a bit different than the other games. Shining Pearl, which is a Gen 4 remake, Snap, and I think there's some other stuff in there too. I mean, there's just so much Pokemon on the Switch, and that's why it has to be on this list. Most of these series have flaws, you know, like Sword and Shield and Scarlet and Violet had technical issues galore. The Let's Go games were kind of basic and a little bit too easy, honestly, at that point. The Shining Pearl remakes were just a little bit like uninspired. So I do think if you're a big Pokemon fan, there's probably a lot to love here. But I think other than Arceus, you're kind of going through the motions with most of these releases, unfortunately. And so for me, I put it at 6 because there's a lot of darts thrown, maybe 1 or 2 bullseyes, but you can't really deny the power of Pokemon on the Switch and just how many options are available to suit sort of different fans, I guess, or maybe just the same base fans that just will eat up anything Pokemon. I don't know. Number 5 is Metroid. We really only have one true new game, which is Dread, but it's actually my favorite game. It's exactly what I wanted from a 2D Metroid. When you get really tight controls, unique stealth bits, a really cool counter function, epic boss fights, and honestly, I just really liked that it was a little bit less cryptic than a lot of the other Metroid games. I know that people are going to be offended and be like, dude, Metroid Dread, but what about Super Metroid? Super Metroid, Super Metroid! I like Super Metroid, but it's just, for me, it's a little bit hard to go back to and appreciate as if it's a new game now, and I didn't play it as much as a kid. I just didn't get super into it. The other new game-ish is a Metroid Prime remaster. I barely played the GameCube original, so I was really curious how this would hold up, and it is incredible. I mean, the graphics and art design are some of the best on the entire Switch. The planet's really fun to explore. The difficulty is really intense but fair. And I mean, it's really cool. I mean, this game was like the Ocarina of Time to the Zelda series, but just to the Metroid series, and just how well it brought the 2D aspects and gameplay into a 3D environment. Just nailed it, really. But you've also got the original Metroid, Super Metroid, Metroid Zero Mission, and Fusion on the Game Boy Advance. So there's a lot of Metroid. And I just want to end by saying I'm really happy to see that Dread and Prime Remastered have really brought in a lot of new Metroid fans and gotten this series more respect, because Nintendo has always, I felt like, thought about dropping this series because it doesn't sell enough. But these games have been darlings, not only just in terms of reception from reviewers, but also by fans. And I think both games sold incredibly well. So awesome to see Metroid flourishing on the Switch. Number 4 is Super Smash Bros. And yes, there's only one game, but it is the ultimate Super Smash. Really, every character, every stage, DLC to boot, and some really nice additions to the combat. Like, I really like that new addition of using your shoulder buttons to block through opponents. That was really fun to master. And just like a nice new option, especially as someone like me who likes to really play defensively. I mean, my mains are Game & Watch, Ness, and Link. So, I'm playing with a lot of characters, especially with Ness, where you have to kind of defend yourself a little bit. You can't just go completely, hog wild on the offense. I don't know, I've loved every Smash since the original. I played that one with my best friend growing up. I still remember that commercial in the late 90s with all those furry characters beating the crap out of each other. Awesome. I played Melee, Brawl, and honestly every one. And I just love the series to death, and I would probably rank this a little bit higher on this list, except it only has one game. None of the classic Smashes have made it to Switch Online. And so yeah, I don't know where Nintendo goes next, but Ultimate is an absolute triumph. Number 3 is Xenoblade. We basically have them all. I mean, a ton of Xenoblade here. Xenoblade Chronicles 1, 2, the DLC Torna, 3, and then Xenoblade Chronicles X is coming to the Switch in a few months. So, I mean, that is a lot of Xeno games on the Switch. And it has been an absolute tour de force in terms of a JRPG for the console. These are huge games. I mean, tons of side quests, massive environments, unique combat that's sort of inspired by almost like an MMORPG, but also kind of turn-based-ish and kind of action-y at the same time. Just unique, And honestly, for me, I've actually only played Xenoblade Chronicles 1. I'm actually at the very, very end of it now, finally, after playing for like 2 years on and off. I love it. I love the music. I love the characters. I love the story. I love the world. There's a few things I deplore. Like, I really hate the trade system and the Colony 6 rebuilding. So I don't know. I do love the game in so many ways, but they are excessive games if you never played them. But I mean, honestly, like, these are some of the best RPGs probably ever made. So I do think that the Switch having all of these games is just really amazing. I mean, if you like mechs, huge areas, anime tropes and philosophy, and just zany games that go over the top in pretty much every respect, you will really like these games. And now Nintendo actually fully owns Monolith Soft, so I don't know what they'll do next, but Xeno has been incredible on the Switch. Number 2, we have Mario and Zelda left, and honestly, I'm going to probably make a lot of people angry and choose Zelda in the number 2 spot. Yes, I know Breath of the Wild is like the game that's probably the most synonymous with the Switch, and it is amazing. I mean, I'd play that game for like 4, 5, 6 hours a day and want to keep playing. I mean, almost no game in my adult years has made me want to play like that, but Breath of the Wild absolutely did. Then we got one of my favorite games, Link's Awakening, with a beautiful, charming remaster, a remake, I guess, but it's essentially the same game. Skyward Sword, lesser Zelda, but it does clean up a lot of the annoying crap from the Wii version, like Fi or Fi, whatever her name is, popping up all the time, and all your items constantly having to explain themselves when you pick them up. Tears of the Kingdom is basically more Breath of the Wild with some physics additions, and Echoes of the Wisdom, first game where we finally get to control Zelda, and it kind of mixes up the Link's Awakening aesthetics with some of the Breath of the Wild aesthetics. I don't know, it's a very unique game. I did enjoy it quite a bit. So yeah, a really, really good run for Zelda, a very unique brand here with the Breath of the Wild, Tears of the Kingdom Echoes for the new games, definitely kind of all fit together. But you've also got most of the classic Zeldas on Switch Online. The original NES entries, A Link to the Past, Ocarina, Majora, what else is in there? Minish Cap. So we're missing maybe a few. I mean, I really wanted to see Wind Waker come to the Switch. That didn't happen, and so that's kind of sad. And honestly, it's weird to say it, but I'm a bit Zelda'd out. I mean, I want to keep playing Zelda, but I'm also like, wow, I played so much Zelda in this generation. So just an incredible run for this series, maybe the best in the history for the franchise, really. And that leaves number 1, which is, of course, Nintendo's oldest mascot, Mario. Part of the reason why I put this at number 1 is a little bit subjective. I do think Odyssey is just the best Mario game ever made in terms of the 3D Mario games. It's my favorite Switch game of all time. this was the first game I played. It was a treasure. I put so much time into it. I just did like everything I could except for finding like pointless shines. No, sorry, not shines. This isn't Sunshine. Power moons at the end of the game. But we also have Mario 3D Land and Bowser's Fury, a kind of mix of old and new, underrated in my opinion. 3D All-Stars is a big, hot mess, but I do think Galaxy turned it up really well, and that's the best game of the bunch in my opinion anyway. Mario U Deluxe is honestly kind of unremarkable, but still really good fun if you just want some more 2D Mario. Wonder, remarkable 2D Mario, really awesome Wonder mechanic and really cool kind of multiplayer implement with saving each other. Just a lot of innovation with that one. And then Mario Maker 2 for people that want to make their own levels. It's not really me, but I did enjoy playing some custom levels when we had it. So there's a lot of Mario on the Switch, and we have pretty much all the classic Marios available. The NES trilogy, Mario World, Yoshi's Island, Mario 64. We're even getting some of the Game Boy entries like Mario Land 2, which I really love that one. It's so wonky. And probably a couple others I'm forgetting. And honestly, you could interchange Zelda and Mario. I would have no issue with putting Zelda at number 1. I'm just personally putting Mario there, mostly because Odyssey is just such a cool friggin' game. And honestly, the only game that's rivaled it since then is Astrobot, and I don't even know which one's better because they're both so good. Alright guys, that's it. So there's some series I do wish we would have seen, like the new F-Zero or a new Golden Sun or a new Star Fox, but a really good run on the Switch with a lot of amazing games in series. So I want to put the question to you. What do you think the very best Nintendo Switch franchise is made by Nintendo? What's your pick? Do you think it's Zelda? Do you think it's Mario? Is it Pikmin? Is it something I completely left off like Kirby? Let me know in the comments below. Please like and subscribe. Game on.